Hello, Airbus Cockpit Coach here. I'm a real-world Airbus pilot, and in this video I'm going to be taking you through the preliminary checks on the iniBuilds Airbus A350. Let's jump inside the cockpit and get started. So here we are inside the cockpit, cold and dark. So the first thing we want to do is get some power established so we can get some light into the cockpit. Before we do anything, we need to do our safety checks as we would on any other Airbus. So we've got our engine masters in the off position and our engine start switch in norm. Thrust levers are at idle, gear levers down, wiper switches are off. And then we come up, 4 batteries on the A350, turning them on left to right. We then turn on the external power sources, of which there are 2, and we start on the right side, external 2, external 1. And now the aircraft comes alive. You hear that triple ding there? That's an indication that the warning computers are coming online. Before I go any further, I usually make sure all my hardware is all set up. There's no hardware faults, so I check my thrust levers, check the rudder pedals and side stick. So we don't want to get too far and find out. Actually, we have to reset the sim. Next, we want to conduct the battery check. So we come up again to the overhead and we turn the batteries off right to left. The battery 2, emergency battery 2, emergency battery 1, battery 1. Now, something that's slightly different on this aircraft is the battery panel here at the back. Using this selector here, we can run through and check the voltages of all 4 batteries, the emergencies on the left and the normal batteries on the right. We've got nickel-cadmium batteries, they need to be above 25 volts, and the lithium-ion batteries need to be above 27 volts. So do check which type you have. That is an option, but some liveries do default those options, so it's important to understand what you've got on board. So 28.4, 28.2, 28.1 and 28.2. So they're all above the acceptable range for both of those battery types, so it's not something we need to be concerned with today. Once we've done that, we turn them back on left to right. We then come up and align our IRS system, moving the switches from off to nav in the order of 1, 2 over on the right, and then the middle one, number 3. Next we come down and we look at lighting, so we get the cockpit set up sufficiently. So the floodlights there, they light up our panels. Got the integral lights, so that's the backlighting for the switches. We can either dim that down. I'd like to have that reasonably high. We've got the dome light, which is this big one up here. We could have that on at the moment. See, that lights up. And this 4th dial here allows us to control all the displays with the one dial. All the various displays with one control, which is quite useful. They can be done individually. I'm not sure they all adjust individually, certainly this one does, but they do have individual controls in the real world above all the displays. So that's the aircraft electrically powered, and now we move into our OIS screen and conduct the next stages. This screen can take some time to boot up depending on the option you've selected, so you can have that booting up instantly or in real time. It can take some time, a number of minutes in the real world to boot. So the first thing we're going to do is come into the flight op status under the mission title, select that, and we can simply do a SimBrief import. This aircraft is well optimized around SimBrief and allows you to automate and simplify a lot of this programming. to do some brief imports. You see it's pulled in flight numbers, which today is a registration, just for purposes of this video, and it's a short flight Heathrow to Geneva. Once we've done that, we can come over and check the FMS on the multifunction display here. We check the aircraft status. We can look at the fuel penalties, so there were minimum equipment list items, for example. We can adjust a fuel penalty for those if necessary. We check the nav database, and we can delete any stored pilot waypoints. We then want to start initializing the flight plan, so we come to the init button, so we press that here, and we can use company flight plan request to again pull the information from SimBrief, which is really useful. Request is pending. Received company flight plans. So select that again and go to insert, and then you'll see it's pulled all the information across. We obviously want to cross-check this information with our paperwork, our operational flight plan, make sure it's correct. So once we're happy that's all correct, we can then check the status of the aircraft. And we'll come down here and select recall all, hold that down, and then we've got normal appearing there on the upper Ecam. So that shows us that there's no pre-existing faults with the aircraft from an earlier flight, so we're fault free essentially. It's pertinent as flight crew operating any aircraft, especially as we change aircraft during the day, perhaps from flight to flight, to understand the options and the equipment on your particular aircraft. So here we've got things like rudder control, tiller, and various bits, aircraft weathering. But we come down here to equipment. A lot of this is managed by livery, so you need to be wary of what that livery's got on board. Wing hooks and fuel jettison. Make sure our throttles are calibrated, and things like simulation rates and so forth. But we want to be wary about what equipment is on our aircraft. If you don't have a livery installed, you can adjust some of these. Some of these give you the options to change various bits, and it's important to be aware of that. And it can affect the behaviour of the aircraft. Next, we want to set up our radio management panel. Straightforward to use. We have options over the top for VHF, H8, telephone, squawk, menu nav, and we can line select the different frequencies here. So standby on VHF1 is one we want to adjust. We can put in VATSIM Unicorn, for example, 1228, and we can left line select to switch that over. We can then select VHF1. We can lift that out so we're listening to it and turn the volume up. That's important to remember. VHF2, we want to monitor guard. We don't want to speak on that, but we want to listen to it and monitor it, so we can turn the volume up on that. So all the VHF radios are in line, the HFs are in line, telephone's in line. So it's slightly different to other Airbuses, how that panel's laid out. And then we want to turn on things like intercom, so we can sort of listen to any comms. PA. Make sure our rad nav standby switch is guarded. And that's sort of comm set up, so we can call for help if we need to, if there's an issue with the aircraft. At this point it's quite simple to do. And with that in mind as well, we want to make sure that we got volume turned up on the loudspeaker, so ground crew can get in touch with us and alert us to anything they may need to. Next, we want to perform our fire checks. So we come up to the overhead and have the APU engine 1, engine 2, but unlike other Airbuses, we have the one fire test switch that controls all the tests under one press. So we're going to press this switch here. We're expecting all the lights to illuminate, along with all the agent lights, as well as a normal tone, and we'll go down and check the master warning, the Ecam displays, and the engine master switches for illumination as well. All the lights on there. We've got our aural tone. We've got the master warning right here. And we have engine 1 fire, engine 2 fire, APU fire, and main landing gear bay fire as well. And then down here, the master switch is also illuminated, and that's exactly what we want to see. So that's a good test. We can release that switch. Once that's complete, we can start the APU. So back up to the overhead. We hit the master. We don't need to wait 3 seconds on the A350, so we hit start, and we don't have to wait to turn on the APU bleed either. So we can select all those controls. That will bring up the APU page. The flaps moving. Obviously a good idea, especially with a big aircraft, to get the APU on a little bit in advance of passengers arriving, so it can get conditioned to a decent, comfortable temperature. And that's even more important if we've got very cold temperatures outside or very hot temperatures outside. Before boarding, this aircraft does have an APU Ecam mode up here beneath the battery selector, and that reduces fuel consumption on. So it basically operates it at a slightly reduced level, saving a little bit of fuel for us if the aircraft is not full of passengers. But we still want to maintain some conditioning. So we've now got the APU available. APU bleed. We can hear the rumble of air now coming into the cockpit. And we can now turn off external ground power source 1, and only 1 at the moment. Now the A350, if we look at the electrical config, it will favour the APU over the external power source 1. So we've turned the external power source back on. You'll see it still takes the APU load rather than the external power. So we may as well turn that off, and that reduces risk to the ground crew as well, who may be disconnecting things from the aircraft. We can clear out the messages that are appearing here, so we just go to clear info to clean those out. So we've got the IRS aligned, get that out, GPS primary, reach uplink, and then we can come over and we want to look at the load sheets. Again, nice and simple. We've got SimBrief in use, so we can do a SimBrief import. It pulls in our 0 fuel weights from our flight plan and the fuel load. We can adjust this up and down now, so if there were changes we wanted to make, once we've done that, simply set 0 fuel weight and set fuel. And that's now loading the fuel instantly, and the aircraft is now at those weights and fuel load. And we can verify that if we bring up the fuel page. Fuel on board 14.5 tons. There we go, and that's what we've requested there. Next we can do our takeoff performance. So we can come down again on the bottom row here and select TO Perf, takeoff performance. Again we can sync SimBrief, nice and simple. We can sync the weather. We can adjust runway condition, anti-ice, the config of flap, air conditioning, which is usually off, and our flex or toga, so we'll go flex. So we can sync all that up. Here is where, if we had an intersection departure, we can reduce the takeoff unavailable. And to get that information, we can come over to the terminal charts. And the charts that will contain, head under airport, that kind of information will be airport info takeoff minimums. So for example, if we were going to depart from November 3 intersection, that's at 3224 meters. So we come back over to takeoff perf, and you can actually use your physical keyboard or these controls here. 3224, and we can compute, and then that's calculated from that intersection using the current weather and our SimBrief weights. 27 left, got our V-speeds, flaps, everything we need there, the flex temp, and we can send that over to the FMS, which we will do. So we can select perf just to verify that's gone in, and we will need to confirm the speeds. I'll throw those in for now. So while you do that, next, before one of the flight deck crew go out to do the walk around, we check a number of things first. So we come over to the upper Ecam, we look at our oxygen levels for the captain and first officer, the rain repellent levels, and then we come down and we select the hydraulic page. Now we want the hydraulics to be the reservoir level, which is the larger green line, in line with these small boxes here. So it's got to be in that range from the top of that green box to the bottom of it. So it's that one's fine, and this one is fine as well. This one's in the middle. This one's a little bit lower. And also we want to check out oil quantities as well in the engine. So we come to the engine page, and you will see that we have no data here. So what we need to do is turn on the FADEX. So the controls for those are again right up here. So we need to unguard these, turn those on, and there we have our engine information. So we're 18.6 quarts on engine 1, 18.9 on engine 2. We need 12 quarts as a minimum, but we do want to consider obviously the length of flight and also, you know, a return back to base as well. So important to ensure that we're not getting close to the 12 quart number. So if any of those levels are low, one nice thing with the iniBuilds, it has modelled sort of wear and tear and hydraulic and oil quantities that change, both in the green and yellow system, the APU, the engine oil, we've got brake wear, we've got batteries that degrade. So this is where you service all of those. So if any of those get low, then you'll find as you start conducting a number of flights, these will start moving around. So it does add a bit more extra realism to an immersion to your simulation by having that here. So do look out for it, and make sure you're not departing with an unserviceable aircraft. So it's really important to do these prelim checks in the A350. Obviously then we need to turn the FADEX back off. Now they will turn off by themselves after 15 minutes. I prefer just to turn them off and close the guards and those switches. Then we come over to the primary flight display, and we look at our flap status. So the flaps are retracted, spoilers are also retracted, that's not being shown here, and the park brake is on and gear is down. So we just verify that. So spoilers are retracted, not armed, flaps are up, gear lever's down, and also we've got the park brake set there, and park brake is on. That all makes sense, that's all matching up. And then we can check the accumulator pressure. So we've got the green at the bottom, yellow on the top here on this gauge. We can recharge the green using Accu Reinflate. The green's used for the brakes, so we don't need to alert ground crew if we're doing that. It's only the yellow system where flight surfaces may move. So if we were recharging the yellow, we'd have to turn on an electric pump or an engine to charge the yellow up. So that involves notifying the ground crew, but the green we can recharge using this switch here. But these are both in the green where we want them. At this point, a member of the flight deck crew would go out and conduct the walk around, doing the visual inspection, and would also check things like gear pins and covers and safety equipment on board in the cockpit. And that concludes the preliminary checks on the Airbus A350. If you have any questions on that, please drop them in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one. We'll look at the cockpit preparation setup. Thanks for watching.